Subscribe to Rostrum Legal on YouTube and press the bell icon to never miss any updates for our new videos and live classes.
Hello everyone, I am Chandrika and you are watching Rostrum Legal. In this episode of Toppers Talk, we have with us Suraj TN. Suraj has scored AIR 8 in CLAT PG 2023 examinations. So let's hear from Suraj. Welcome to this episode.
Hello ma'am, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor talking to you.
Thank you, Suraj. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you on your well-deserving success. Getting an AIR 8 or getting an AIR in a single digit is still a dream for many CLAT PG aspirants. So well done on that, dear.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before we begin this session, I would like you to introduce yourself. Our viewers would love to, hear the real Suraj story, and he would love to, know you better. So please introduce yourself along with, I would love to hear the part where you had your, the law school time, the law school phase. Everyone has, brilliant memories from that phase. So yes, please take over and let us know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm from Chennai. I am pursuing my BCom LLB from Faculty of Law SRM IST. So the thing about me is that I did not sit for CLAT UG. I did not write CLAT UG, which is, I think, the main reason behind me writing CLAT PG, because I felt that missing out on CLAT UG was a mistake on my part. So which was why I actually sat for CLAT PG. So I was born and brought up in Chennai. I'm an avid football fan. And my source of inspiration is my sister. She has a master's degree in advanced chemical engineering from the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. She's a scholar. So she pursued her master's on a full tuition fee waiver. So she was the one who motivated me to also try and pursue my master's degree at a very reputed institution. So this, along with the fact that I did not sit for CLAT UG, spurred me forward to write CLAT PG. So this is actually something that I actually wanted to share firsthand. And my journey as a law student has actually been very enriching. It has taught me a lot, not only about the society or about the rules and regulations that govern us, but it has also taught me a lot about myself. Things that I didn't know I possessed, things that I didn't know I could actually do, were some things that my law school actually exposed me to. So my journey as a law student has been super enriching. It has taught me a lot, and it could have been a lot better because COVID-19 came and snatched away 2 years of law school. Yet, despite COVID-19, I tried to keep myself occupied during the 2 years when I had online classes. So despite that, I believe that my journey has been enriching, and I genuinely do not have any regrets. Now, looking back at the last 4.5 years, I feel that I have done what I probably was capable of and am capable of. So I don't have any regrets, and it's going to be a pretty interesting 6 months now because of admissions and the fact that I would have to juggle between admission at an NLU and my last semester of college. It is going to be a different experience altogether, but I am really looking forward to it. So overall, it has been really positive and I'm really glad for it.
Okay, thank you for sharing this, Suraj. And I love to hear more about your sister later. We can always connect on that. Suraj, I always tell my students, whenever you expect about CLAT PG or, anything about consortium or any other thing, I always say them expect the unexpected. And they never fail to surprise us. So, this time when we saw the question paper, we were in a shock. Tell me, what was your reaction when you first saw the question paper?
I was surprised as well. In fact, I'll be lying to myself if I told you that I wasn't surprised. Even I was taken aback when I saw the paper. So as we all know, there were 12 passages with 10 questions from each passage. So soon as I got the paper and I opened the seal, I just went through the passages quickly. And then I realized that the passages were actually based on judgments or were excerpts that were taken from those areas of law which many people did not really expect would be the focus for the exam. So I was actually a bit surprised. But then when it came to looking at the very first passage, I realized that the questions that were asked from the first passage were of such kind that the answers were there in the passage itself. So I realized that that would only be the trend with respect to the other passages as well. So initially I was really taken aback, and the consortium actually conducted a session probably 40 to 45 days before the exam. And in the session, they told us to focus on the recent legal developments and to focus on the law behind such developments, and to also focus on the opinions that are given by the judges with respect to each such development. Because of that, I focused on the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. I focused on the economically weaker section reservation. I focused on marital rape. So there were so many developments that have happened over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. I focused on all of them. And surprisingly, the exam did not even in a remote manner touch upon any of these legal developments. So yes, it was a case where I was pleasantly surprised after the exam got over that I was somehow able to go through it despite the passages being from those areas of law which I did not really expect would be touched upon. Yet initially I was really taken aback. It wasn't a pleasant surprise by any means, definitely not. But somehow I was able to manage it after the first passage itself. So luckily, I believe that the first passage in a way strengthened me to focus more on the passage and then to give little importance to the questions, because I felt that if I could discern what was actually mentioned in the passages in a greater detail, then I would be able to answer the questions in a much more better manner than I probably did expect.
Yeah, thank you for letting the viewers know, Suraj. Sometimes, we just think that a topper is, out of the world. They will have some, extra superpower. No, they are just like us. Exactly. And everyone have those fears. You just conquer them and do well, right?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, that is the thing.
Okay. So, Suraj, tell us about your preparation journey. How much time did you devote in your preparation, and what all did you study which helped you in this examination?
So I decided to write CLAT PG in January itself, but I started my preparation only in September. So every day I used to devote around 2.5 to 3 hours. So initially, I have to actually say that my journey happened phase by phase. So firstly, I focused on constitutional law and jurisprudence, because generally when we talk about CLAT PG, we expect the emphasis to be more on constitutional law, followed by jurisprudence, and then the other subjects. So I firstly focused on constitutional law and jurisprudence. And then after that, I started focusing on the other areas of law, such as the Indian Penal Code, the CRPC, and then along with the CRPC, even the Contract Act is pretty important. So I focused on these areas of law after constitution and jurisprudence. And then after I got a grip over these important aspects, I focused on the recent legal developments. As the consortium had asked us to focus on these recent developments, I focused on them for a while. And after this, I focused on the landmark judgments. No matter how much we prepare, our preparation will not be considered to be complete without going through some of the landmark judgments, the classics as they are often referred to. So I went through the landmark judgments as well, from constitutional law, contract law, and even to an extent the Indian Penal Code. So for that, I focused on constitution bench judgments predominantly. And then I used SCC for my preparation. And for the recent legal developments, I used live law. Significantly, I used live law, and then bar and bench and the other very reputed news agencies when it comes to law in general. So this was the way how I prepared. And after all this, I focused on mock tests, because I felt that attempting mock tests without reasonable amounts of preparation will only reduce my confidence. Because it's natural that mock tests focus on these areas of law. So attempting mock tests without having a grip of these areas of law will only result in us losing our confidence if we don't get the marks that we expect. So mock tests were things that I pushed to a later stage. Probably the last 15 days of the exam, that was when I started attempting mock tests. So it was a phase by phase preparation from my end. I do not want to mix everything all at once and then prepare, because in that case, I would have been absolutely directionless. So I wanted to have it in a structured manner. So this was the manner in which I prepared, and I would advise aspirants to also do this.
Okay. And, Suraj, whenever we talk about the recent development in legislature or the, recent new judgments which come up, it is still a nightmare for many, PG aspirants. So tell us, how did you prepare on, this recent judgment part? How did you cover that?
So talking about recent judgments, initially the problem with recent judgments is that you don't get the summaries as soon as they are in. the summaries or the head notes, they are something that you see from portals like SEC only at a later stage, probably 3 or 4 months after the judgments are actually delivered. So in that case, it's very important to follow what reputed news agencies keep telling you about these judgments. Because if you take an agency like LiveLaw or Bar and Bench, what it does, it initially gives you an overview of the ruling, the major ruling. And then over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks of a judgment, they will keep releasing articles on a regular basis covering the most important aspects of these landmark judgments. So these articles will eventually end up covering the entire judgment itself in some way or the other, or the most important viewpoints will be covered across these articles itself. So it's a case where when it comes to recent judgments, students or aspirants are supposed to focus on the articles that are written by such reputed agencies. So apart from that, we also have many platforms also that keep providing this kind of summaries. So it's a case where you're supposed to follow these articles. And then at the same time, you're also supposed to follow the notes that are being provided by such reputed platforms. So this is the way how recent judgments can be covered. If someone has the time, then they can definitely go through the entire judgment if it's possible. But that is something that I would advise against because there isn't much time. So going through the entire judgment is something that some people do, which is actually a very good exercise. But if there isn't much time, then I think that it would be better to just focus on these articles because these articles themselves will cover the most important viewpoints.
So basically smart work over hard work. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. If there's no time, then naturally smart work must take precedence over hard work. Yes.
Absolutely. So throughout this preparation journey, tell me what kept you motivated? Like, going through the several subjects, reading all the new legislations, cases, everything. One must feel, fed up at certain point of time. What kept the spark alive? How did you keep yourself motivated throughout this journey?
I think it has to be the stature of the NLUs. The stature that these institutions occupy.
Well said. Said.
That in itself is a huge motivating factor. You know that when you go to an NLU, you get mentored by the very best. The best professors the country has to offer are from the NLUs. They work for the NLUs. So that is one thing. And then it's also I think now it's a well accepted fact that the exposure that one gets at a national law university is also unparalleled. It can't be compared to the exposure that you might end up getting at even a very reputed private institution for that matter. So I think these two things, exposure and the privilege that you have to be mentored by the very best, is also something that, in my opinion, motivated me to continue going. And I also realized that the preparation that I would be doing for CLAT PG would only be for 3 or 4 months. But the 1 year that I'll be spending at an NLU will definitely outweigh the 3 or 4 months of pressure that I would actually be going through for the preparation. So the benefits that you get from this 1 year course will quite easily outweigh any of the issues that you might be facing over the course of the preparation. So this was my mindset. So the motivating factor predominantly happened to be the stature of the NLUs and the benefits that they offer. So that is the thing that I would say spurred me forward or spurred me on to prepare for CLAT PG.
Very well said. I agree with each and every word you said. And tell me, you studied sincerely for a few months. And throughout those, throughout that time, how did RostrumLegal help you? How could we, contribute towards your success?
So I would say that there were probably 3 or 4 aspects in which RostrumLegal really helped me. Firstly, I would say that the mock tests played a major role. And the mock tests, as I said, I took them only at a later stage of my preparation. But the mock tests really helped me when it came to my time management. So time management is something that we all know is a very vital skill when it comes to these kind of exams. So the mock tests that are actually provided by RostrumLegal, they help me to, in a way, get control over this particular skill. You need to have the ability to manage your time. And that ability was something that I developed by attending these mock tests. So that is probably one thing that stands out. Secondly, I think that the previous year papers, even they were uploaded on the portal, on the RostrumLegal portal, and they were also, in a way, projected in the same manner as the mock tests. So the timer was there. The questions were also set in the same manner in which the mock tests were tuned. So even the timing of the mock tests were similar to the timing of the previous year's question papers. So even the previous year's question papers that were available on the platform really helped me. And the notes, there were elaborate notes on each subject, and the notes were also summarized. And especially when you want to revise, you can't go through a book. You can't go through a guide because you don't have the time, and you don't have the energy also in most cases to find out what the important points are. But the notes that were offered, they covered the most important points, the points that were required to be known. So that was another thing. And also, I think the fact that the judgments were also summarized. Many of the landmark judgments were actually summarized and available in an abridged version on the platform. So I would say that in these aspects, or in this regard, RostrumLegal really did help me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind words, dear. Acha, tell me, Suraj, if a student comes running to you and says, I have to prepare for CLAT PG 2024, what suggestion would you give them?
Yeah, so my suggestion will be solely based on the 2023 paper. And like it was pointed out earlier as well, I think that the hallmark of CLAT PG is the uncertainty that surrounds it. I think it's the uncertainty that makes it stand apart from all the other entrance exams. So my first piece of advice to anyone who is aspiring to crack CLAT PG would be to be as open-minded as possible. And what do I mean by open-minded? When a student is preparing for CLAT PG, they should not prepare for the exam on a preconceived notion. They should not think that, okay, constitutional law will be the most important area, so I'll focus mostly on constitution. After that, I'll focus on jurisprudence. That must not be the manner in which I believe students must prepare. They must be open-minded. They must be ready to answer questions from any branch of law or from any subset of the law itself. For example, this time there was a passage on insider trading. Insider trading in general can be attributed to corporate law or company law. And when someone is preparing, they won't focus much on insider trading. So when you are preparing, you must be open-minded to also read passages that might be from those areas of law that you might not even think are important. So you're supposed to be open-minded so that when you go through a passage during the exam, if it's based on a branch of law that you spent little to no time on, then you must not get surprised by it. So you must be ready to anticipate passages from those areas which might seem to be completely obscure as well. So be open-minded when you're preparing. Even when you're preparing, you should not go with the mindset that, okay, I don't think anything apart from this will be asked. That should not be the mindset. You must be like, okay, there are chances that they might ask something from a branch of law which I haven't even covered. It's okay. Even in that case, I will manage. So you have to tune your mind accordingly. So this is what I mean by being open-minded. So be open-minded and be ready to accept passages from those branches of law that might seem to be completely obscure to you. You might not have even heard of such branches of law. Insider trading is something that is probably not even touched upon by law schools.
Right.
Unless and until you specifically choose corporate law as an elective rather. So be open-minded and be ready to accept passages from any branch of law. That is the first thing. And secondly, the thing that I would really request students to do is to give equal importance to every subject. There was a passage on Evidence Act. And Evidence Act is something that you give little to no importance in comparison to constitutional law.
Right.
And the thing is that the passages that are asked, since 10 questions are asked from each passage, if you don't know the basis of the law from which that passage is asked, then you might end up losing at least 6 to 7 marks from that passage alone. At least if the paper is of such kind that there are 120 random MCQs, then you might consider foregoing 1 or 2 enactments, because at the very max, you'll probably get 10 questions from those enactments. But when a passage is being asked, and if 10 questions are being appended to that particular passage, it's important that you have at least some kind of command over the enactment based on which that passage has been asked. So give equal importance to every single subject. This time, there wasn't a single passage on the Indian Penal Code. Who would have actually expected that? The IPC is a thing that is considered to be so crucial. There was one on the Evidence Act, which was surprising. So give importance. There was one on the Trademarks Act. So in intellectual property itself, when it came to intellectual property, interestingly for me, I focused more on copyright. Why did I focus more on copyright? Because the consortium asked us to focus on the recent developments. And one of the recent legal developments that we have had in the field of IPR has to be in relation to the song that was there in the movie Kantara. Yes. So I focused more on copyright law because of that, and I did not focus much on trademarks. But interestingly, I went through the most important provisions of the Trademarks Act. So the passage that was asked on the Trademarks Act was based on the things that I covered, luckily. So give equal importance. Even if you think that something is relatively obscure, give importance to it. Give as much importance to it as you give to constitutional law. Unfortunately, that is the manner in which the paper was this time. So that is the second thing. And the third thing, when you are focusing on a subject or an enactment, give equal importance to every provision as well. Like I spoke about the Evidence Act earlier. So this time the question or the passage on the Evidence Act was from electronic evidence, sections 65A and 65B. When someone goes through these two sections itself, they'll most likely not be interested to pursue further in the field of evidence itself, because these two provisions are considered to be very boring. But they were the provisions based on which one entire passage was asked. So give importance to every provision as well. And even when we take Constitution, there was one passage on the ordinance making powers of the governor. Article 213 of the Constitution. When we focus on the Constitution, we focus on fundamental rights. We focus on the directive principles of state policy. We focus on center-state relations. How much importance do we give to the ordinance making power of the governor? That was asked this time.
Yeah.
10 marks relating to the ordinance making powers of the governor himself. So that is another thing that must be taken into account. Give equal importance to every provision as well. So equal importance to every subject, and within each subject, give equal importance to every single provision. That is one thing. And then for judgments, I would prefer using SEC or any other platform like SEC, because when you read a judgment in its entirety, you might end up missing out on the most important points. But the digest notes and the head notes that are there on SEC, they will in a way cover the entire judgment. So focus on that as well, and always focus on recent legal developments. This time, even though there was no emphasis on them, I won't be surprised if the next exam is purely based on the recent legal developments. So always keep an eye out on the recent legal developments. Like I said before, focus on the articles that are written by the reputed news agencies. And I'm pretty sure that if you do this, then you will in a way be able to cover the exam in a pretty good manner, and you will be able to crack the exam. At least if you do not make it into the top 100, if you do focus on this to an extent, probably the top 200 on an all India basis will definitely arrive. So that is my opinion.
Okay. So what I took from your advice is, first is one quality every CLAT aspirant must possess is being open-minded. You have to be open to things. Next is you have to keep an eye on the recent legal developments.
Yes.
And thirdly, you have to take all the hints which CLAT Consortium provides you before the examination in order to make it a success.
Yes. 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 So
I'm sure, Suraj, all these advices will be very helpful for the future aspirants, CLAT PG.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Suraj, tell us about your future plans. What are you planning to do in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, well, as of now, I'm planning to practice. Okay. I know there's this general misconception that if you want to practice, then you do not really require a master's degree. After a bachelor's degree, you can directly go and practice. I believe that that is a misconception, because when you specialize in something, I think that acts as a springboard for you to specialize in that field when you become an advocate. So for example, if someone wants to do their master's in constitutional and administrative laws, then that in fact opens a gateway for them to establish that practice as a reputed constitutional lawyer or as someone who specializes in public law. So I believe that specialized knowledge will also help when it comes to practicing. So my aim is to start practicing soon after I get my master's degree. But again, we don't know, the future might hold something completely different. I might end up getting exposed to something over the course of the next 1.5 years, which might significantly change my future plans as well. But as of how things are right now, I think that I will be practicing. So, and even when it comes to that, it will be mostly in public law. So that is my aim for now.
Okay, interesting to know. So Suraj, this has brought us to the end of the session.
Okay.
And I really hope that you achieve all your goals. All the very best for your future endeavors.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining tonight. And I'm sure this video will help a lot of CLAT PG aspirants in future. And yes, once again, congratulations on your well-deserved success, dear. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.